Hello there, and welcome to another edition of the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washut will be getting you ready as we get ready to head out to LA for Nebraska USC, their first meeting as members of the Big Ten. And before we get to that, obviously a lot to get to. As Steve Sipple says, it's never not interesting with Nebraska football, and Matt Rule made sure of that this week before we get into this week's big news of Dana Holgorsen taking over as offensive coordinator. The Husker Online Show is brought to you by StayHome.Care. Your home, our care. Get accessible and personalized in-person care in the comfort of your home, whether it's helping with daily tasks like cleaning, laundry, meal preparation, providing companionship, offering medication reminders, or assisting with personal care and errands. We're here to make life easier, serving Omaha and Lincoln and all of Nebraska. Learn more at their website at StayHome.Care. That's .care, not .com. It's never too early to call. You might have questions about a loved one, a close friend, a family member, a sibling that might need some help, and you just want to know what it's going to take and the steps that might be to get there. Call them at 402-205-2233. That's 402-205-2233. Our heart is with you because we put our heart into everything we do. Your home, our care. StayHome.Care. Okay, let's get into the news of the week. Last week, Dana Holgorsen came to Lincoln. You didn't really know for sure where it was heading. On Monday, Matt Rule set the tone of the week. Dana Holgorsen is the offensive coordinator. He will call plays. Marcus Satterfield remains on staff as a tight ends coach only. It is a move unlike we've ever seen really in college football. There's not a lot of comparative data points to what Nebraska has done this week, bringing in Dana Holgorsen to coach the final 3 games of the year.
Yeah, Sean, you've mentioned this. You can do it nowadays, Rob and Sean, because you can just the way staffs are now configured. You have 20 guys you can pay, or as many as you want, and pay them as much as you want. So the world changed, and now you can do this more seamlessly. It's amazing what's going on here. And why is it interesting? Because it's interesting in the way Ozark is interesting with Marty and Wendy. They're always in jams. Why do you tune in? Just to see if they can get out of it. And we're seeing if Rule can get out of a jam. He's in a jackpot. That's a Texas word for jam. He's in a jackpot and he's trying to get out. And he brought in a gunslinger to help him get out. So we'll see if it works.
Yeah, I don't know if there's ever a precedent for something like this. I'm sure in the history of college sports, it's probably happened at some level, but certainly not at a program of Nebraska and with a coach of the profile of Dana Holgorsen this late into the season. So this is pretty uncharted waters for Nebraska and for Matt Rule. But, I don't think this move is just some deal where it's like, all right, after the loss to UCLA, it's like, we got to make a change. All right, I'm going to go through my Rolodex and see who can I call. This is something that probably had been on the back burner, at least in the back of Matt Rule's mind for a while now. He's known Dana for so long. Dana's been kind of on the market, available. Coaches are always prepared for everything. And I imagine this was something that maybe he was keeping an eye on to where it finally got to the point where it was like, I'm going to make that call. And it made sense for Nebraska. It made sense for Dana Holgorsen. And now we'll see what it ends up looking like.
The situation at Wisconsin a couple of years ago was somewhat similar. They fired Paul Chryst. They named Jim Leonard interim head coach. Okay. Then they named Luke Fickell, the head coach. And Luke Fickell got to coach the team for the bowl game and the bowl practices, while Jim Leonard took a step down behind him at that point. Different circumstances, but kind of a unique deal where you brought in a guy to start coaching. Rick Kaczynski came in and coached Nebraska in the Capital One Bowl. He had coached at Iowa.
I don't remember
the final game of the 2011 season.
That's right.
And then in 2012, might have been, I'm trying to remember if it was the 2011 or 2012 season, but he came in then and coached the bowl game.
Rick is listening. Don't mess this up.
But that was a unique, at that time, Carl Pelini had taken the job at FAU.
Uh-huh.
And then Rick Kaczynski came in and replaced him after the Iowa game, and they made Rick Kaczynski available to coach the bowl game I believe it was against South Carolina.
I think you're right. So Rob, yeah, you guys outlined it pretty well. This is unique. And now I do appreciate what Rule did on Monday, which was lay it out, because word was starting to get out. And I'm not saying it would have been horribly awkward all week, but there'd been a lot of speculation. And then on game day, it'd been weird. Now there's no weirdness. We know what's going on. I guess the next topic would be, what do you think it'll look like? That's the question. What will it look like? If it's appreciably better, how will people react? You know, if they score 42 points,
what took so long?
Yeah. Now, if they score 42 and win, that will be sort of a side conversation because it'll be a gigantic win. So I don't know. There's all kinds of different ways this could go in terms of what it looks like. The one thing I'd say is I think you're going to see more Fedoni. I think you could see Fedoni in the backfield a little bit, like in a wing, like a split out wing kind of. There's things that Holgerson has done with a tight end that almost makes it like he's the second back and a two back in a
like could Jamal Banks, Robin, or Isaiah Nayor, like, is there a way to get them more involved? Or are those guys who they are? I mean, that's what we don't know. Are they limited against high level Big Ten competition?
I think if nothing else, one of the points Rule made is that before this season, they were just trying to do too much offensively. Like, I don't know if it was like trying to add too much scheme or doing too much with personnel or like making sure that the ball gets to all these different people, which, we're up here saying, why doesn't Carter Nelson get the ball? Why doesn't Ja'Cory Barney get the ball? Like, why doesn't Thomas Fedoni get the ball? So I think that like that almost became a hindrance to the offense where they were so focused on getting touches rather than just having a free flowing offense. And then so maybe this is a deal where Holgerson's coming in with a clean slate on personnel. It's like, well, this guy's a good player. Let's get him the ball. Or this guy could succeed this way. And I thought it was interesting that Rule said that when Dana showed up, he already had ideas about what he could do to tinker with what they're doing offensively.
Well, I think one thing you're going to see right out of the gate is shorter throws early to get Dylan in a rhythm. Get him 5 for 5 for 40 yards.
Screen passes.
Oh, screen or I don't know. Sometimes, yeah. I mean, I think more. It just depends what you want to call them. Just step back, 3-step drop and fire it to the sideline and let the guy try to make a guy miss. Go one sideline, go the other sideline. Here's what they got to do. They got to draw the safeties up. That's what the deal is. You have to bring those safeties up to get the downfield passing game going. Do whatever you have to do. And one thing you can do is throw shorter early in the game. Just get Dylan going. I don't think there's ever been really much focus in what Satterfield was trying to do.
The pre-snap recognition hasn't been the best.
The pre-snap
just recognizing what you're seeing. I mean, going at it better. I mean, I just when you see those safeties deep, like we've seen, like you and I will comment, like, God, those safeties are back deep, like punt returners.
Yeah, got to get them up.
And that means they're playing with 9. You got to take advantage of that.
They're not worried about the run game. I mean, so there's a lot of issues. That's the thing. I don't think they're going to score 42 against USC, okay? Because there's too many issues on that offense. But Rule said, let's just get to what Rule said, and it was really good. Say he can get us 10 more points, 14 more points, get a few more first downs. That could be the difference.
They'd have a bowl berth right now if they could get 10 more points per game.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, the line is not much, and we've seen, some of the opponents Nebraska have played. I mean, Colorado has surged to the point where now they could be a playoff team that gets a bye. UCLA is surging under a first-year head coach.
They are.
Where UCLA has a fighter's chance in their final 3 games against Washington, USC, and Fresno. What if the Bruins finished 7-5? It'd be unbelievable finish.
Well, they look like a bowl team now.
Sure do.
I mean, they hammered Iowa.
They did.
Yeah. Now Dion, I see he's getting mentioned for the Cowboys job, the Dallas Cowboys job. Okay. I mean, that's how good he's gotten. I mean,
he was being mentioned last year when they won 4 games too. So
they are a perfect fit though for the Big 12.
It was Rex Ryan that mentioned.
Like their style of play is a glove fit for the Big 12.
Big 12?
Yeah.
Or Colorado. It is.
I mean,
it is.
In the Pac-12, it was a little, I mean, just because of the Utahs and the USCs, the Oregons, they didn't fit as well. But now in this Big 12, the style play.
Wide open.
It's just a glove fit for him. And they did lose to Kansas State, but they could have won that game too.
Yeah.
But all right, lots to get to, guys. We got a full show. We're going to talk more offensive storylines with Dana Holgorsen, Dylan Raiola next. You're listening here to the Husker Online Show. And we're back here on the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washett. Husker Online Show, again, brought to you by our title sponsor, StayHome.Care. They're there to help you with the loved ones in your life with simple tasks like cleaning, meal preparation, picking up prescriptions, getting a ride to a doctor's appointment. It could be anything. Give them a call at 402-205-2233. Thanks again to StayHome.Care. We're also brought to you by our friends Omaha Steaks. And they're back. And for Christmas, who does not want a box of steaks? Like that is like a game-changing gift. You know, what do I buy, Steve? What do I buy, Robin? Get them a box of steaks. And
how do you go wrong?
You can't go wrong.
How do you go wrong?
They have the holiday boxes right now at Omaha Steaks. And they've already got a lot of specials, a lot of things that are marked down right now, including, you know, the $89.99 gift box that comes with, you know, several different things, 2 different 4-packs of burgers, a package of steaks, a package of chicken breasts, hot dogs, fries. It comes with all these different items in this box. They ship it right to your door as well. A lot of these specials right now at Omaha Steaks are over 50% site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, we're going to give you another $30 off your order at Omaha Steaks. You have to use that promo code Huskers. That's promo code Huskers to get $30 off at omahasteaks.com. And these boxes are already discounted. So get online, get that loved one in your life or close friend a box of great meat from Omaha Steaks. Thanks again to Omaha Steaks for sponsoring us here on the Husker Online Show. Okay, let's talk our offensive storylines because obviously Dylan Raiola is a big one this week, guys, and his availability and how this works because Dana Holgorsen, you know, is going to look a lot better with a healthy version of Dylan Raiola.
Yeah, and Heinrich Haarberg has been taking snaps with the ones in practice, but we don't know exactly Dylan Raiola's health status, although Rule did say last week that if they had a game last week, he wouldn't have played, but he thought he'd be ready for the USC game. So, and then on Monday, this week, he updated and just said he didn't know.
I think he said that Tuesday's practice, they would have a pretty good idea.
Okay.
Like if he was able to go Tuesday, then, but we're not going to get an update on that until Thursday. So
yeah. So we'll see on Dylan. It's obviously a huge story. It's a huge story now because of Holgerson. And how does that impact Dylan? How does that impact Dylan in the short term? How does it impact Dylan in the long term? I think if you're a Nebraska fan, you like the pairing. I mean, in the short term and long term, if Holgerson would eventually become the OC, we don't know that. We know he's going to be with Nebraska this season. Beyond that, we don't. But that would, and let's just be very honest here. There's tampering going on all over college football. Dylan hears from teams every single day.
It's part of the business.
I don't mind saying it. It's just like you just living under a rock if you don't think that's the case. So, I mean, I think it makes sense to have a guy that can push him and that Dylan feels that will better him. Because the one thing I always emphasize about Dylan, he wants to be coach hard and he wants to be better.
Well, now you're bringing in a guy too that's put multiple quarterbacks in the league, produced multiple elite offenses nationally at several different stops. So, I mean, he's got a track record that shows that what his offense works, and it's worked over many stops over many years. And so I think that is an appealing addition, especially at a critical time right now where, like you said, I mean, phone calls are happening, options are being laid out on the table. And if you can have something, if you're Matt Rule saying, hey, look what we're doing. We're actively trying to make your situation better. We're bringing in a guy with this profile and this resume to make you the best quarterback that you can be. And I think that when you look at what Dylan needs right now, it's almost like a simplification. You talk about how they were doing too much offensively. Well, what is the air raid? The air raid, like you think it's this like crazy system. It's simple. Yeah. You're running a select number of plays out of a variety of different packages, and you need a quarterback that's going to make quick decisions, get the ball out fast to his receivers. What did you just say? Quick passes early for Dylan. I mean, I think that in theory, the schematic principles that Dana wants to teach versus the skill set that Dylan Raiola needs are a perfect match.
You know what, Sean, real quick. You know what Mike Leach, remember Leach, Sean? The late Mike Leach?
Yes.
You know what? He would
He's
have
called my house before.
I'm sorry.
For a book tour interview.
Really? He had a card on the sideline, a card. And did you ever wonder what he was doing? All he was doing, it was like in the form of a football field. And he was just making dots where the passes went. So he knew they were getting spread around. Mm-hmm. That's all it was. It was a card with dots on it.
He didn't even wear a headset half the time, right?
No.
Yeah, I saw.
It's like Rob said, simple.
I saw a meme where he had like basically like a note card, like a little like flashcard type thing, and then they paired it like next to Andy Reid, who's got like a Denny's menu for a play sheet,
right?
Like I think that's what it comes down to. Is like you have all with that Eric Bieniemy, with that Andy Reid style, like that it's plays. Whereas this one is a scheme. Right. They're only running a handful of plays just out of a variety of different looks. Yeah,
I'm also interested just moving forward how this all works out with Satterfield and just how it plays out in the last month and how things. Look, he's got a big contract underneath him right now with Nebraska. I mean, Nebraska is paying him over $1 million this year.
What is the number?
He's making I'm looking it up right now. He's making $1.4 million. So he's entitled to that for another year from now. And there's just no way he would take reduced pay to stay at Nebraska. It's just tight ends coach. I mean, I think we all kind of understand what's going on here. And on the flip side, Holgerson, though, his salary is being mitigated by Houston, which I believe his buyout there was around $15 million.
That's right.
He's paid full pay for this year and next year by Houston, and then half pay for the years after. So Nebraska won't really have to actually pay Dana Holgorsen much. I mean, they'll have to pay him a reasonable coordinator wage, but it won't have to be $1.4 million either.
No, so they're getting him at a bargain rate. Now, the thing I want to also mention that people say, why Holgerson? Well, there's a lot of reasons. Robin touched on him. The one we didn't touch on is he and Rule are both athletes. They're both athletes' first clients, so they have the same representation, and that is probably more important than you think because those entities have get-togethers, and they do get together, and they know each other. There is a familiarity that definitely is helpful here. So yeah, it's an amazing development. It almost seems surreal in a way, especially it seems. I mean, this gets lost in the conversation because it's so far removed. But Robin and I guess you and Sean are similar age. But there was a time when we would emphasize the importance of coaching stability. And now here's what we have. We have a major change in staff with 3 games left in the regular season. It's an amazing occurrence. There's drawbacks to it. There's potential drawbacks. And one is you hear the coaches all the time. You hear Matt Rule say it's a process. It's a process. And the players hear that. And the players have heard the same offensive voices since spring. So spring, and then all August, and then all throughout the fall. And suddenly it just got kind of blown up. So it's not, I basically applaud the move, but it's not without some peril. I mean, what are the players thinking right now?
Well, yeah, and then the current staff too. I mean, the guy
100.
that got removed is still on staff
100.
right now. So you need people that can handle this like grown-ups and not be resentful and start to be divisive and have their guys like.
It's not a given.
You get your tight end group like, oh, we don't want to play for this guy. Look at what he's doing. Undercutting what's happening from your new OC now. Like, you need everybody to be pulling the rope the same direction. So I thought it was important when Rule talked about how Satterfield kind of just, he understood the situation. He accepted it. He said, let me do whatever I can to help. Garrett McGuire did the same thing. He's like, hey, let me help you with terminology. EJ Barthel, Donovan Raiola. They all seem to be welcoming and accepting of this move and trying to make the most of it. And if that plays out, I think that's going to be critical.
Guys, they have contracts too that state that they need to perform their duties. And if they don't, you can be fired for cause.
Sure.
So guess what goes away if you get fired for cause, for not cooperating with what you're told to do?
Your big contract.
$1.4 million.
Right.
So, I mean, all these coaches, like, they have to get on board, because if you don't, it's insubordination and you can be fired for. Yeah,
it's just, it just becomes very professional.
Like, you have,
but that's okay. I've talked to guys who coached with Urban Meyer. It wasn't touchy-feely. It was we're here to do a job.
It's professional game.
Corporate. Yeah, it's corporate. We're here to do a job. It's not a bunch of guys going out every night and having fun with their families together. No, it's not. Oftentimes it's just hired guns and let's get this
this
going.
is like what goes on at Fortune 500 companies.
Right.
When people come in and people, replace people, it just happens.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, and let's face it, Satterfield wasn't getting it done. I mean, we know we verbalized it. And I thought Rule did a good job yesterday. Robin, you alluded to it. He didn't want to spell it out, but that lack of focus on offense that he talked about, that was a lot of it. And I'm glad he went there.
All right, when we come back, we'll talk defensive headlines going into USC. You're listening here to the Husker Online Show. We're back here on the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Wash at Husker Online Show. Again, brought to you by StayHome.Care. They're there for you to help you with the loved ones in your life. It's never too early to call them to learn more about some of the services they can help you with at 402-205-2233. Also, we're brought to you by BetterHelp. And look, life is tough sometimes. There's a lot of things going on in your day-to-day personal world. And sometimes you just need somebody to talk to, and there's no better way to do that than therapy. And BetterHelp makes it so easy to do. You do it at home confidentially. You pick out a time, a therapist that works for you, just to talk through some of the problems and things you might be dealing with in your day-to-day life. And we've got a great deal as well for our Husker Online viewers. If you never have tried BetterHelp, check them out on their website at betterhelp.com/Husker. That's betterhelp.com/Husker. And you're going to get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/Husker to get 10% off that first month. Thanks again to BetterHelp for sponsoring us here on the Husker Online Show. Okay, let's get back into defensive storylines because obviously Dana Holgorsen in town. A lot was made as well about Phil Snow. But we've learned that Phil Snow has been working as a consultant all year. So his presence and kind of the storyline of him, not near as big as what we've seen with Holgerson this week.
No, Snow has been a consultant all year. And it's important to Matt Rule. I'm not playing it down from the head coach's standpoint. Phil Snow's really accomplished, especially when he was with Rule at Temple and Baylor. So he's someone that Rule trusts. But yeah, he's been getting help from him all along. Now the defense faces a huge challenge. USC's 4-5. They're not having the kind of season they want. They've been in a lot of close games, but it's Lincoln Riley. All right. It's at the end of the day, this is Lincoln Riley and all the help you can get with your defense right now makes sense to me. This is about urgency now. It's about, like I said at the top of the show, Rule, you could tell at the podium there's pressure, and there's pressure to get to a bowl game. And Rob, Sean, I think he feels some pressure. Of course, he feels pressure to maximize this team. If you look at their roster, there's a lot of veterans. The top 14 tacklers on this team are seniors and juniors. There's really no excuse. On really either side of the ball, but especially defense. Top 14 tacklers on this team are seniors and juniors, veteran guys.
So was Phil Snow here over the bye? Like, was he on campus? Okay. So he was on campus.
He was on campus.
Prior to that, everything he had done was virtual, like a Zoom meeting, film study type thing.
Yeah, and Scott Frost had been working as a consultant before he went with the Rams. There's a lot of coaches. Matt Lubick has done that over his career.
He did it.
If you're a successful coordinator or a former head coach, that type of work is out there. I think there's always people willing to pay somebody that knows more than they do to watch your film.
Yeah, more eyes on it's fresh eyes, as they say. And it's like Rule said yesterday, he verbalized it really well. Fresh eyes with no context, no history, just no, there's no favoritism or anti-feelings toward a player. Just no context. This is what it is. What's it look like to you?
I'm curious what the week or the days, whatever, that he spent actually seeing the team in person, and the advice maybe he was able to offer from that might differ from what he has seen on film or anything like that, because this is arguably Matt Rule's like most trusted asset. He said he would die for Phil Snow. Like, they have that type of relationship.
Phil
so
Snow,
like if he comes in and sees things in person that maybe somebody else on the staff isn't noticing or whatever, like how much weight does that carry over a prep? And like, if there are any changes on defense or any adjustments or tweaks, could that have maybe sparked it, that you have a guy of that level of trust with Matt Rule that is familiar with the team already, but then gets a chance to see it with his own two eyes? Like, could you see anything change or tweaks from that?
Maybe. I mean, from him being here, just being on campus. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to say.
I just think on the bye, it allows you time to sit down and look at things. And you go back to the last bye, Nebraska's 5-1. You know, I don't think you were panicking.
No.
But then you go,
you think he's panicking now?
You go 0-3 off the bye. You get boat raced by Indiana. You know, all you need to do is essentially make one play to beat Ohio State. You can't do that. And then you put together one of the worst first halves we've seen all year for Nebraska.
Now, panicking. I don't know about panic. I hope Rule's not panicking, Sean. You might be right. I don't know.
Reactionary.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing ever been done like this that I've ever seen anywhere.
It's an interesting conversation because you can sell it to me as being reactionary. You can sell it to me as being proactive.
Yep. I think you can see it both ways.
Yeah, you can see it both ways. So I don't know. I just know that they need something, particularly on offense.
It's like you're running a restaurant and you said, okay, the head chef's not getting it done. We're bringing in a new head chef, and the former head chef's going to move to the fryers.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to run the restaurant with the same ingredients, the same recipes for this year. And then next season, when we open again, you know, we'll let you have your menu.
Wait, maybe. Yeah, we don't know what's going to happen with Holgerson. We should make that clear. We don't know that he'll be here
He's
next
getting
year.
mentioned for a lot of jobs, like coordinator jobs.
Coordinator jobs, not head coaching jobs.
Head coaching jobs. Matt Rule said he might have head coaching opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, lower, but I think at the higher Power 5, Power 4, I think coordinator, like Oklahoma.
Right. He had
Florida State.
He had 3 losing seasons out of 5 years at Houston. I don't know. I don't know if he'll be back in the head coaching chair or not.
I think more than likely it's a Nebraska coordinator. It's an Oklahoma job. It's a Florida State job. Those are the kind of coordinator
But can't you keep him here?
Well, that's the plan.
Yeah.
Hope.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's going to be going on for the next month. Like,
he's going to have some leverage.
He is.
He's going to have
but they don't even need to pay him, because he's making his $3 million whatever still from Houston.
They will be able to pay him. They'll be able to pay him a top 10 coordinator salary, because that's what Marcus Satterfield was making. So I mean, like, Nebraska can pony up. They can keep him.
I think for the first year though, you don't need to go that high.
Yeah,
because of mitigation.
If you pay him $600,000, $700,000
at the same time, though, he's probably going to want some sort of security. Like,
we give him a 3-year.
Yeah,
Ooh, yeah.
So where it's built in.
But even then though, he's got 3 full years after this year of Houston's pay.
Okay, we're leaving something out of this conversation. Is he even here if Dylan Raiola's not here? I mean, that's enticing to a coordinator, a chance to work with someone with that much talent. I think Dylan Raiola is a huge pice of that.
And if you stayed status quo with your offense, is Dylan Raiola here next year?
Now, I want to be clear.
I like that laugh.
I want to be clear on something. We don't know any. I don't think Dylan has any plans on leaving, and it's not like we don't know stuff. I mean, I want to make that clear. There's nothing like that. I'm just saying he hears from people.
He would have the opportunity.
Yeah, if he wanted to leave, he could leave tomorrow.
I mean Gabe Urban, Thomas Fedoni, all those.
Yeah,
guys
all those guys. Do you think Ja'Cory Barney's not hearing from people every single day?
Yep.
Come on. That's the way the world
thought,
is.
Though, with revenue sharing, it's going to equalize things a lot more, where you're not going to get outbid that bad. The days of you pay a guy $50 and someone comes in and pays him $250.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen probably as much when this rev share money is circled in, especially for the Big Ten and the SEC, who are going to be full rev share.
Quick, just divergent a little bit. They didn't bring in anybody to look at special teams. I mean, Matt, if they did, he didn't mention.
I mean, Brett Maher, I thought that was
that's kind of
he had been with the team though since August.
Yeah. Now, the one stat to look at in this game, USC leads the nation in net punting. Nebraska's 123rd. There's other bad stats for Nebraska.
Field
we don't need to go
position.
through those right now.
Should they be holding up people better to set return? Like what it like?
I don't know.
What why aren't they getting or I mean I went to the Chiefs game obviously Sunday and I was amazed just the amount of time guys get returns in the pro.
Okay, so are you talking about punt return defense?
Yeah.
Punt returns or punt return defense?
Nebraska returning punts.
Like,
oh, why is Nebraska tailed off so badly in that? I don't know, but they're 99th now, and they're only averaging 5.45. It's 11 returns for 60 yards. Remember, I think after 4 games or 5 games, they're at 48.
Mm-hmm.
So
college punts are all over the place, though. They're low.
That's part of it.
Rugbies, they're spread punts.
There's teams that return punts.
They're not like it used to be, though.
Not like it maybe, but if you look at the top, if you just go to college football stats, there's teams returning punts.
But the rugby punts and the spread punts have taken away like the return a lot in the college football game. Or in the pros, you can't do that.
Tell Iowa that. Tell Penn State that. They're returning punts. A lot of them. I mean, it's not. No, I will not accept that.
It's not as good as it used to be.
No, it's not as good as it used to be.
The
but
traditional high hang time punt that DeJuan
100. I get that.
That's not happening.
No, that's not happening. But all you got to do is look at the stats, which I have done. People are returning punts.
Somehow we've determined that a guy from Australia who does a crappy style roll punt, like it's
kind of effective sometimes.
It's effective, and it's changed that element. But all right, let's get into the mailbag next. Abby Barmore will join us. You're listening here to the Husker Online Show. And we're back here on the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washut, Abby Barmore joining us here for the mailbag. And before we get to that, again, we're brought to you by StayHome.Care. They're there to help you with the loved ones in your life. Give them a call at 205-2233. That's 402-205-2233. Also brought to you by Bauer Underground. We're thrilled to be working with Bauer Underground again here on the Husker Online Show. They provide support for local contractors and utility companies with the state of Nebraska. Bauer Underground gives 100% to assure quality control for their customers, and they have excellent management skills to supervise each and every job they contract for. The company and its employees are accustomed to deadline pressure on construction jobs, and they take tremendous pride in meeting the deadline requirements while maintaining excellent workmanship on each job. Strategy at the heart of what they do for more than 25 years. Their reputation has been built on these basic principles which include quality workmanship, on-time job completion, hiring and retaining high-quality personnel, utilizing the latest earth-moving techniques, maintaining safety for their customers and employees. We have a lot more coming here throughout the year, but Bauer Underground, go to their website at BauerUnderground.com to learn more. They've got locations and offices in Lincoln, Omaha, Kearney, and Norfolk. Thanks again to Bauer Underground for sponsoring us here on the Husker Online Show. Okay, Abby, what do you got?
Okay, first one. How will Holgerson taking over at OC impact Nebraska's recruiting?
Oh, I think it is something to sell, and that's another good reason why this change was made. I think signing day is December 4th. The portal opens December 9th.
Huge dates.
You look at the opening, the Iowa game is on the 29th of November, I believe. So
something like that.
I believe so. You talk about how quick December 4th and December 9th are going to come. They're going to come quick. And there's not a lot of time after the Iowa game to do these kinds of things, to take with you and sell.
Right. So this is the question, guys. Rob, are we going to see this more often in season coaching moves?
I think so. And like you said, it's just kind of the way the landscape has shifted to where stuff like this had zero precedent. Now I think it's going to be something you see probably multiple times.
Okay, can we do this then? Is this Matt Rule on the cutting edge?
Could be.
That's the way it struck me.
Well, the new staff rules allow you to do this too.
Right.
Like you can just build a bench.
Yeah.
Almost and rotate people in.
It's unlimited.
And if you're a fired former head coach, just wait it out, because an opportunity is probably going to come up within the next season, maybe.
Yeah.
Like a Jack Del Rio. Oh, wait.
Hello.
Into the fence.
Sorry,
that's okay. No, we're fine. Rob,
hey, those old fashions in Madison,
we're
Rob.
Oh, they're good.
They get you.
Our next question.
Okay. How does Holgerson's use of the run game fit into what Rule wants Nebraska to be in the Big Ten?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Just basically, how is he going to use the run game, and how does that match up with what Rule has wanted and the Big Ten?
Rule did touch on it yesterday.
He runs it.
Power. He runs power. He runs counter. They run. I mean, I've heard coaches talk about this. Holgerson ran at West Virginia. They had to run.
This isn't like your Texas Tech Mike
No.
Leach air raid where they throw it 70 times a game. Like he's going to run the ball.
Wisconsin runs the ball now, and they're running, I suppose, a version of the air raid, but they run the ball well. So I wouldn't, if I'm a Nebraska fan, I will tell you right now, don't worry about that part. But this isn't the Texas Tech.
Your backs are still your backs.
Yeah.
Your line is still your line. You can only do so much. But I think if you can have more success with the passing game to get that box to open up a little bit, the defensive box to open up, then I think that's going to help the run.
Well, it's a lighter box usually. It'll be a lighter box.
All right. Next question.
Okay, if Harburg starts against USC and Raiola is unavailable, who's the backup quarterback?
If Harburg
starts and Raiola is unavailable,
Daniel Kalen.
Daniel's the backup.
I mean, Gramstad's there always, but I think they would go to Kalen.
Yeah.
Especially now that he's within the window, like he's good to go.
It's a good question.
Yeah, that's a tough spot, though. You hope you're not in that spot.
I mean, now on the bright side, USC's pass defense is ranked 96th nationally. Okay, USC's ranked 72nd nationally on defense. They're not a great defense, and they're small.
All right, next question.
Okay.
Am I?
No, I'm still laughing about
your adolescence.
We're a couple of
Get it together here, boys.
Over here right now.
We're very immature.
My God.
Okay.
Talking about
Stop.
Next one.
Yes, please.
What is the feeling behind Nebraska's incoming 2025 class? And is this where Nebraska wants to be going into year 3?
Look, it's a solid class. They have 19 commits. They parted ways with Bryson Hayes. I love the addition of Juju Marks after seeing him in person at the game. I mean, he's a big body. They need big bodies. Cade Pedshock, a big body. Sean Hammerback, a big body.
These are O linemen.
They've added a lot of O linemen and D linemen. Pedshock's a D lineman.
Oh, is okay
from North Dakota.
Yeah, you're right.
So they've brought good people on the line of scrimmage. They've gotten good in-state recruits. I think the questions are 3 people. Chase Lofton from Millard South, the tight end. What's going to go on with him? He's looking at A&M and Missouri. He's still committed to Florida State. Dawson Merritt. I would like to think Nebraska's got a decent chance still to make that flip happen. And then, the couple other ones, Michael Terry, that's still open. Nebraska was out there visiting him. I do believe Cortez Mills is worth watching still. I think that's been kind of under the radar, but I think Cortez Mills is still one to watch here down the stretch. And look, NIL is a huge piece for all these things. And
Holgerson a huge piece for all these things.
Correct.
Especially for the offensive players like
but
Terry
there's probably 3 or 4 names that take this class from today being solid to being a really, really high ranking class. Next question.
Okay, next one. Which current Nebraska coach has proven that they can develop players at Nebraska?
Well, I mean, you could say all of them.
I like what Rob Dvorak's done with some of the guys at linebacker. I mean, look
at John Bullock and Bayer.
Jabbing right at times.
And then younger guys like Shavers, who's contributed.
And McGahee.
I would say Willis McGahee the fourth is a guy you'd look at and say, oh, he's already making plays as a freshman. Dvorak's a good one. I don't mind saying Raiola. I mean, you've seen some development. Now you got to see it now really kick in though, because you're going to lose a bunch of guys and you're going to thrust some guys in there that don't have a lot of experience. So, but I've seen a level of development there that's satisfactory.
Well, Terrence Knighton too, I think has done
a
lot of things up front.
Yeah, I mean, there's this. Listen, it's a tough question because they're right now.
It's a tough time to ask that question,
Right.
and that's why the user asked it, because
Right.
it definitely puts us in an awkward position when they're on a 3-game skid
and the season's in a balance. I
and
mean,
they want you to paint a flowery picture of somebody. It's hard to do right now because your mind is on 3 straight losses.
and here's the other thing about that question, Abby. I've always said when they hire an assistant, I want 2 years to evaluate him. Okay. And nobody wants to hear that. But that now here's the thing. These guys are now finishing up their second year.
Now it's evaluation time coming up.
But there's still games left. So I kind of want to see. And even 2 years can be a little bit quick. I mean, I was talking to EJ Barthel in Texas. he talked about, I'm still trying to get my foot in the door kind of in St. Louis and in some of these new recruiting places. And I'm like, man, he's just still trying to get his foot in the door. Give him some time.
All right. Final question.
What is your favorite Nebraska game that you've covered in California?
Go ahead, guys.
To put them on the table here, guys, we've been out there for 06 USC, 2012 UCLA, 2014 Fresno State, 2 Holiday Bowls, and a Foster Farms Bowl. So we got about 6 that, if I'm missing one, let me know, but I think that's all of them.
Oh, I went to the
in the Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
The
one.
national title.
I mean, that one, obviously, I was so young, but I went out there with Kevin Kugler. We did shows.
What's your favorite one?
I still would have to say, even though they lost the USC game in 06.
Okay.
Just that scene. I mean,
it was amazing.
Pete Carroll.
Oh, it was amazing.
The talent that USC had.
Wideouts.
The stadium at that point, the Coliseum held over 90,000. It was packed.
It was pretty packed.
And Nebraska had a lot of California West Coast players that, like Marlon Lucky and some of these players that were freshmen. So there was a lot of intrigue. Nebraska lost that game 28-10.
And the talk was they really didn't try to win it.
No, and they
tried to stay close.
They played a conservative style and hoped that John David Booty would make some mistakes. But
John David Booty,
the number of Nebraska fans that traveled out for all those games in general, but that one particularly was crazy.
Rob,
the Holiday Bowl against Arizona, when Nebraska absolutely decimated Arizona 33-0. Nick Foles in that game was 9 of 29 passing, 1.7 yards per completion for 48 yards, 0 touchdowns, and a pick, and a QB rating of 5.5.
I had no idea it was that bad for him.
Absolute domination. And with the best part about that game, not only like what it seemed at the time to mean for Nebraska, like you thought Nebraska was back. I mean, the Sioux was like the peak of the Sioux era. Like the defense was absolutely dominant. Everything was rolling. But the way that like Arizona was like chirping throughout that whole game, I remember like I think at halftime they were like barking at Nebraska's guys, like still talking crap throughout the entire game, and Nebraska just absolutely elbow dropped them.
33-0. My favorite by far is the Rose Bowl of 2001. Even though it was a loss, and even though I didn't even watch the second half, I didn't because I was on deadline and the game was over at halftime. So I would look up, like you guys do that, have to do that sometimes. Why was it my favorite? Because back then we would go, the Lincoln Journal-Star guys would go when the team went. I stayed in Century City for 14 days. I was in the hotel. It was incredible, but it's fun. You're in California for 14 days during the winter. I got so comfortable. You guys can't imagine this because you never let me drive. I had to drive everywhere, and I got comfortable getting places without having to go on the freeway. I learned LA pretty well, and it was fun. I mean, we had a great time.
I love long bowl trips.
14 days is a lot.
Yeah, that's
14 days is a lot.
That's a grind. Anything over a week is.
That was pre like high-speed internet.
Yeah, it was. It was pre high.
I mean, you were just putting your stories on a tab. I mean, I don't even know what would you.
I don't even remember I can't remember that part. I remember that the old
tablets,
the old Bills. Oh, Marv Levy was staying in the hotel for some reason.
Quill pens,
Levy, and then there's like I think I can't think of the Motown star that was in that hotel. It was a really nice hotel. Anyway.
I do remember though, early, like my first professional years, like they didn't have high-speed internet and press boxes yet.
No,
they definitely didn't have Wi-Fi.
It was a pain, and
you had to have a dial-up.
Yeah,
and find a line that you could hook into with a phone cable and dial into dial in whether it was Netscape or AOL just to like post.
Yeah. I can't remember having too much problems that way. I can't remember too much problems. I do remember a brief conversation with Frank a couple days before the game, just off to the side of the bus. And it was after practice. They were getting on the bus. The guys were getting on the bus to go back to the hotel. And I remember distinctly saying to Frank, "What do you think? What do you think?" And he looked at me and said, "This is going to be tough." And I knew there was trouble. I kind of already did, but he said, "This is going to be tough."
All right, when we come back, we're going to close up with some Big Ten talk. You're listening here to the Husker Online Show. Final segment here of the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washett. Again, we're brought to you by StayHome.Care. They can do anything for you. Looking for help with your loved ones in your life. They are there to help you with those simple tasks you may not have time for, whether it's grocery shopping, picking up medications, getting a ride to a doctor's appointment, cooking, cleaning. Call them at 402-205-2233. Thanks again to StayHome.Care for sponsoring us here in the Husker Online Show. Also brought to you by Ellerbrock-Norris. They've been helping Nebraska business owners protect their purpose for over 120 years. With risk management solutions built for local businesses, Ellerbrock-Norris partners with you on commercial insurance, group benefits, business exit planning, safety, and more. Start thinking long-term with your business and create a risk management strategy to protect it. Are your employee benefit costs going through the roof? Talk to Ellerbrock. Or workplace injuries skyrocketing your workers' compensation costs? Talk to Ellerbrock. Helping you retire in the next 10 years and sell the business to family, key employees, or even a friendly competitor? Talk to Ellerbrock. Ellerbrock-Norris is helping you protect your purpose, whether it's your business and the employees in it, your life outside of work, or your future retirement goals. Head to ellerbrock-norris.com/HuskerOnline today to get your free risk evaluation. Thanks to Ellerbrock-Norris for sponsoring us here on the Husker Online Show. Okay, let's get into the Big Ten action, guys. Not a great slate of games last week. You had Rutgers over Minnesota. That was somewhat of an upset, 26-19. Rutgers now at 5 wins. Minnesota stays at 6. Ohio State all over Purdue, 45-0. Really, the game of the week was Indiana, Michigan. 20-15 winners were the Hoosiers. They're now 10-0. Oregon was a 39-18 winner over Maryland. Penn State, a 35-6 winner over Washington in the whiteout game. And then really probably the surprise outcome to a lot of folks was UCLA running for over 200 yards against Iowa. 20-17 winners. They held Caleb Johnson to 18 carries for 49 yards rushing.
Jeez,
that's a feat.
What a flex by UCLA. What a major league flex.
Nebraska ran it better on UCLA than Iowa did.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I mean,
Caleb Johnson's entered the game number 2 nationally.
I mean, he was like a Heisman Trophy contender
outside, but Hunter
was in the conversation,
right?
In Indiana, how about them with the adversity? They
great. I mean, Cignetti had to love that game because they were pressed and they haven't been pressed much. So I think he comes out of that game happy. Now they didn't play particularly well on offense. I think they got 246 yards, held Michigan to 201 or that range. I don't have the stats exact. I wouldn't be surprised if those are exact, Chicken Nick, but I think it was about 246 to 201. Indiana has a defense, boys. That's a legit defense. I don't know what happened at Indiana. They're leading, and I will say this: their sack man, Kamara. His name is Mikhail Kamara. He's from James Madison. He's a James Madison guy. So a lot of those James Madison guys hit.
Dudes. 206 yards from Michigan.
206. Thank you.
And now this weekend, there's really not a number one outright matchup of the weekend. A lot of solid games, not a number one outright game. Friday night, we'll get UCLA at Washington. The Bruins back in that Friday night slot, and they're a 3.5-point dog to the Huskies. Ohio State's a big favorite over Northwestern. Michigan State is a slight dog at Illinois. Penn State's a big favorite on the road at Purdue. That place will be empty for Ross-Ade Stadium is my guess. Nebraska at USC. That's a Fox game at 3. The Huskers, as we know, are a 9-point dog. I think we had it at 8.5 earlier on our pick sheet. Rutgers, Maryland, -6 for Maryland. That's a surprising line. I figured Rutgers would be closer to that on the spread. And then Oregon at Wisconsin, a night game in Madison. So definitely a little bit of adversity. I don't know what the weather is going to be like, but it's going to be a little chillier for that game at night.
Yeah, that's a game to watch. Wisconsin, though, coming off of it got blown out by Iowa. So I don't know how Wisconsin, how they will react to that. That fan base is pretty split up right now. There's a lot of pro Fickle. There's a lot of people. It reminds you of Nebraska when they fired Solich. There's a lot of people that are still in that camp of why did we get rid of Paul Christ and Jim Leonard. So it's a very similar vibe to what we experienced in 2003.
And Chris McIntosh is kind of their version.
He's
a Peterson, Eichhorst type guy. Just some fan.
Came in with his own ideas.
I would love to know, what Alvarez thinks, because he's been really mysteriously quiet, which tells me everything I need to know.
Yeah, I'd love to know. I wonder how diplomatic he would be in that conversation. I don't know. Maybe he wouldn't, Sean. It's a possibility he'd be diplomatic. I don't know.
Hey, game of the week, Nebraska USC.
Is that it?
The Desperation Bowl. There's so much intrigue. Dana Holgorsen, the new quarterback at USC, the pressure on Lincoln Riley. Like both these teams are desperate for a win. They have to win.
The desperation. See, Nebraska's already bowl eligible. They're in a desperation.
First bowl game trip to LA.
Streak ends.
We'll get some good steak, by the way, guys, in LA.
Where are we going?
Mastros. Sorry.
In Beverly Hills.
Beverly Hills.
Wow. So I got to bring like a collared shirt.
Yeah, you got to keep your 5-inch shorts at the hotel.
I don't have 5-inch. I don't. They're not. I don't even know where they're at right now, Sean.
And then we're thinking about Johnny's Pastrami's in Culver City.
Johnny's Pastrami's.
Okay. Half-hour trip though, huh?
8 miles.
Oh, that's not. Is that a half hour? They said
Everything's an hour drive in LA.
Like unless you're going across the street, bake on a half hour.
Okay.
But should be a good trip. And we're going to have a post-game show as well from LA.
Post-game show.
But thanks again for joining us here on the Husker Online Show. Again, brought to you by StayHome.Care. For Abby Barmore, Robin Washett, Steve Sipple, I'm Sean Callahan.